Good morning. Today is July 7th, 2015. With me today is Bob Walradth, and we are at the campus of Ball State University in the studios of WIPB TV. We are recording his interview for the Ford Oval of Honor 2015 program. Bob, can you give us your name and spell it out for us, please?
Robert W. Walradth.
In the spelling, sir?
W-A-L-R-A-D-T-H-R-O-B-E-R-T.
Okay. Where were you born and when?
I was born right here in Muncie, Indiana, Ball Memorial Hospital in 1948.
As you were growing up, did your family have a history of military service?
My dad's a World War II veteran. And I lost him about 3 years ago.
Take your time.
He, good man.
Did he influence your decision to
No.
join the military?
Uncle Sam did. US 67159878. I got draft papers.
Were you
February 19th, 1969.
So you entered via the draft. Were you surprised by that?
No, we all knew it was coming in our era and our time and day. We, all our buddies get together and we'd say, hey, you got your papers yet? No. Well, I got mine. Well, you know, sooner or later yours was coming, so. But it's everybody, if you're an American, you're gonna serve your country, so most people.
What was basic training like?
It was different. It was I played a lot of sports in school, and I was in pretty good shape. And when I went into basic training, going through all of their techniques and all that, it wasn't too bad for me because I was in fairly decent shape. Matter of fact, I won the PT thing, and out of 500 people, I come in first, so I was pretty proud of that. In the rain, we had our PT, our final PT course for the.
So physically, you found it not to be challenging because you were physically fit. What about the mental aspect?
It was challenging mentally because they put it on you pretty good, and there was a reason for that, for disciplining and for to get you ready and prepare you for all different kinds of situations, combat situations and whatever. They dug on you pretty hard. The DIs did, which is a drill instructor. And there's reasons for that. You don't see it then, but when you get a little older, you see it. So, and you appreciate it. Makes you tougher.
You were physically fit, mentally ready to go, but your advanced training, instead of being in infantry, at what point did they decide, or did you decide you wanted to be in the armored arm?
Well, I didn't make that decision. They made it for me. Again, that when the orders come down that we went to advanced infantry training. That's AIT, that's the next step, that's the following step from basic training, which I took at Fort Knox, Kentucky, is where I took my basic training at. And it's advanced training on all armor. That's what I went in as an armor, so that's how I got involved in tanks and armored personnel carriers, and then also infantry training, all three. And then we done advanced training beyond that. I had special forces training because I was on a classified tank at that time. It was certified, and then we had special forces training on top of that. So I was in Fort Knox, Kentucky, all my training through there. Then I had 19-day leave of absence, and then I went straight to Vietnam when I come back.
Did they not send your unit to Panama for the jungle training?
No, sir.
Okay. You
No.
talked about the equipment you were working on was specialized, and that was the M551 Sheridan. Can you talk to us about that armored unit?
It was the hull of that armored vehicle was made out of aluminum, and it was kind of tapered. It had taper like this compared to the 48 and 60s. Or 60s is not quite like the 48s, but it's 35 ton versus the M48s, M60s, A1s, M60 and M60A1 both, was like 52 to 60 ton. And they had like 7 inches of steel in their turret and the hull of them was like a little bit more than 7 inches. An RPG round will go penetrate through quite a bit of steel, and then once it goes through it, which is the enemy has the RPGs. If I'm getting ahead of this, I don't mean to be, but an RPG round, what the North Vietnamese used, would penetrate through a turret in a tank over there that we had, was just nothing flat because it was aluminum and it just eat right through it. And your life expectancy over there in a firefight, if it gets pretty heavy, it's unless you stay on top of it, it's about 10 seconds.
So the RPGs?
The RPGs was our worst nightmare for a tanker, and landmines.
So you went from...
And we're still in Fort Knox, I know, but I got a little ahead of you, and I apologize.
No, that's fine. We'll kind of bop around, and we'll make it good in editing. You had training at Fort Knox, and that was fairly thorough. You had leave. What were your thoughts while you were on leave, getting ready to deploy to Vietnam?
Not good. You didn't know what to expect. You didn't know. You hear your buddies come back that you went to school with that's older than you, that you always looked up to, and they give you good advice. They say, just listen to the older guys and be smart, But they knew there was a lot of other things they could have shared with us, but they didn't let it out, and I can understand that. Now, when I went in, if you don't mind me bringing this up, I had a good best friend of mine, Eric Miller. He's from Moreland, Indiana. Me and Eric and I went all the way through military together. We went day one. We took our physical together. We went through basic training together, AIT training together, took our leave together, and we went to Vietnam. We both went to L Troop, 3rd 11th Armor Cav, the 3rd Regiment, which is very unusual. And I went to 1st Platoon, he went to 3rd Platoon. We'd see each other almost every day, whenever we went on different missions, and we can get into that later probably. So, but I wanted to let you know that my best friend was Eric Miller from Moreland, and we both made it. So I extended my time to get out early, because that's when Nixon gave a 5-month early out when I come home. And he come on home, so I don't think he was happy with me. I think he wanted me to stay with him through the whole journey, but I wanted out of the man's army. When I left Vietnam, I wanted completely away from all of it, so I took a chance.
Was that unique that you two would go through all that training together, and did anyone else in your unit have that kind of connection, that bond?
No. And we only lived we grew up 6 miles apart and really didn't even know each other that well until we both got drafted down Newcastle, Indiana, and that's where we got inducted. We left through Newcastle, that's where we got drafted out of. So, and then we got, we knew each other, played ball against each other in school. He went to Moreland, and I went to Bluntsville. It's an old Bluntsville school, grade school. So we're like brothers. We're close.
You grew closer through your time in the service.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
You were acquaintances and then brothers by the end of it. Did your relationship with your father, he was a veteran, World War II veteran.
Yes, sir.
As you were preparing to leave, did that change in any way? Did he give you advice?
No. He just walked away. We said goodbye. He went out in the pasture field.
He probably had his own thoughts that he was struggling with as well.
He knew.
When you're 19,
he knew.
He knew. When you're 18 and 19, and your father knows, but you don't know, did you feel you were invincible or just young?
Kind of, yeah. I guess that's probably a good way to put it, the way you addressed that there. But we grew up on a farm, and like I said, he just said goodbye and walked out in the pasture field.
How about did you have siblings? Brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I got 2 sisters. I got my older sister, Diana Geyer, is her name now, and Rita Butler. She married my wife's brother, so we're married brothers and sisters.
How did they react to their brother being deployed?
As far as?
Were they, you know, did they have anxiety and fear for you, and did they show it?
No, my older sister did, but my younger sister, she was still in school, and the people just didn't realize at the time, you know, it's until you get involved in that, and then you start hearing stuff on the news. Once your family gets involved, or a friend or whoever, then people start watching the news every day and finding out what's going on in Vietnam, and then when it's family, then they write you and they're concerned. Yeah, they get that way.
When you landed, actually, let me ask that. Where did you land when you got to Vietnam?
When I landed in Ben Hoa Air Force Base. And you could look down coming in the plane. We flew over commercial. When we landed, there was smoke pop, yellow smoke or green smoke pop, and bullets flying around. And here you are, and you ain't even got off the ground yet, off the jet, and you're thinking, and of course the bullets flying around is a little bit away from the area we flew into, but it wasn't all that. It wasn't as safe as what you'd think it would be. And it was, and you walked out off the plane and took that first or second step down that ladder to come off of it, and you're thinking, man, I got 12 months of this crap, and you hadn't even touched the soil yet, and then you break out in an immediate sweat because it's very hot over there. But there's others out there doing it, and you know, they've done it before we did, and you know, it wasn't easy for anybody over there.
Did you know in advance what unit you were going to?
No, not really. I knew I was going in armor, but yeah, I guess I knew I was going to the 11th Armored Cavalry. But I didn't know what regiment or what unit or what troop or nothing like that.
Did you know about the 11th ACR before you went?
You know a little bit about them, and the 3rd Squadron, because Patton was head of the 3rd Armor in World War II, the way I understand it, and all the information I've seen on it, and I've done a lot of studying on that. It's after you get involved in armor, you know, you want to look at past history, especially after you've been home for a while, and try to get your train of thought together. And that's the 3rd Armor over there in World War II was just phenomenal, very well commanded. It's if it wasn't for World War II veterans, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about it. I honestly believe that. They led the way for us, and they deserve a whole bunch of credit that they haven't got in the past. I don't think as much as they should. But and a lot of them's got so much pride they don't want us to talk too much about it. Or they don't want to go to the VAs about it, and we've lost a lot of them. But I just worship the ground World War II veterans walk on.
In the linkages, General Patton's son actually commanded.
He was at one time, yes, he did. He commanded over there. He sure did. He was over us.
Yeah. So, was it comforting for you? I guess as this green troop, you're coming off the plane, but you know you're going to a unit that has a legacy, that has a history. Did any of that kind of factor into helping you get acclimated?
Once we got involved and got oriented over there and found out where we was going to go and how we was supposed to be doing things, it was a lifter. It sure was. It was, and after they explained to us what 3rd Cavalry was 11th Armored Cavalry was all about, I went into 3rd Squadron. That's where I ended up going, L Troop, 3rd to 11th. It's an honor because there's a lot of tradition to the cavalry, and also the officers and the people that's helped get them there. It goes back a long way.
What about the vets that were there and the officers that were there when you entered? How did they receive you? What was your reception like, and what advice did they give you?
Well, you get into all different kind of nationalities when you get in the military like that, and at that point, when I don't want to get ahead of you here, but when you start getting into situations where everybody needs to congregate and get in together and pull together, you get along with people pretty quick. You bond. I don't care if you're whatever color your nationality you are, if you're Puerto Rican, Mexican, African American, or whatever. We all was tight. We was together. It didn't take long for us to bond each. If that didn't happen, then there was adjustments that was made, and then it finally happened. So we took care of our own.
You were assigned to a tank, in the M551 Sheridan. What was your crew like, and how did you interact with them?
Well, when you have training, number one, before we get into the tank, you learn how to be a tank commander or a loader, a gunner, or a driver. You have to have that, because if you lose one of the four, then somebody else got to take over, and we make a decision real quick on how we adjust that. And we all knew our jobs, and sometimes we would rotate because we all could do the same thing. But the main person on that tank, or the most responsible person, is the tank commander himself. And I started out as a gunner over there, and I pretty much stayed as a gunner because that's what they wanted me to do. I knew how to shoot the big main gun, and the rest of the stuff not too bad. I was not too shabby. But then we all got together. We all got along pretty good, and you learn how to do that.
You joined the unit at what time? When did you get to Vietnam?
I think around August of '69, somewhere in there, close to it. If I remember right. Can't pinpoint it, but yeah. It was in that area, close to that time.
What was the mood within the unit? Was morale high?
It was, you never knew what to expect next. You're on pins and needles most of the time, but the majority of the time, but whenever you can get in a situation where you can feel like you're a little safe, then we would have some fairly decent time. But our time was out in the jungle most of the time. We lived in the jungle, that was our home. We lived on the back of our tanks or under the tanks, sleeping at night, or have to watch, have night watches and stuff at the NDPs. We set perimeters up, bust jungle down in the circles, and then set up our trip flares. And every once in a while, Charlie, which is the enemy they called Charlie, they'd put a little brochure on our trip flares on the wire at night, let us know they was around. It was pretty sharp.
Did you have respect for your enemy?
Leaflets, they called them leaflets at that time.
Yeah. Did you have respect for your enemy?
Oh yeah.
Was it?
It's their home, their terrain, their place, and they were trained pretty decent for guerrilla warfare. But they had a lot of respect for the 11th Armored Cav too, because when Black Horse come in there, they didn't start out over there to start with, but when they brought them in, they served their purpose. They opened the areas up, which helped the infantry and helped everybody.
So it does seem odd that an armored unit would be found in Vietnam in a jungle situation. Were you always in a jungle, or were there plantations or open fields or urban centers? How did armor operate in that environment?
Sometimes we would have a 3-day stand down. That's for maintenance on your vehicles and stuff. We'd go to maybe Sambay or Sambay Bridge, or go to an area where it's not so thick with jungle and secured, where we could pull maintenance on our tanks and stuff and get them ready, then to go back to our next designated area. So not all the time. We didn't get that much. Most of the time we done it right there where we was at. They'd fly the parts right into us or whatever. But sometimes we get lucky enough to go back to a rear area sometimes for a couple days or so, and that was about it. And it was like heaven to us, because where there were showers there and stuff like that. Of course, showers like in a big tank up overhead and stuff. But you could take a shower and not worry about somebody watching your back with a M16 or 50 caliber or whatever. That's how we took showers over there, or baths, or just quick as and fast as you can. We leave our cans out on the tank all day long. The sun would get hot and get the water hot for you, and we had a special water jug that was made out of plastic with holes in it, and we'd flip that over at night, and then 2 or 3 of us would use the same one because you didn't have that much water over there, and that water would be hot, like hot. And then, so, of course, we had a primer set up where security would watch us and stuff. And if something would happen, do the best you can to hurry up and get back on your track or whatever to get yourself prepared again.
Yeah. Your introduction to the realities of combat came pretty quick. We had talked previously. You said 5 days into your tour, your track hit a mine. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, my 5th day in country, we all got our assignments, got on our tanks, APC carriers. We had our first mission to go to, and it wasn't too long after we left. Swan Lock was the base camp for Black Horse when we first went there, but then they took it out after we took off. Not too long after that, so the base camp was gone. That's where we left from Swan Lock, and we went into Loch Nen. That's the first experience that we had going into the jungle. And our track, I was a gunner, hit a landmine, and I was inside. And as soon as that happened, we pretty much got ambushed that day. And here, the other guys that's with us has been there for a little bit. I mean, everybody congregated when they come back, got us, and left. And there were some veterans been around there for a little while, and that was nothing to them. That here was contacts made, and to me, 5 days, and I'm the gunner in a tank, and the landmine hits and blows up through, and it kind of scratched me around a little bit and broke my nose and tore my nose up a little bit, and I got a deviated nasal septum in it now, and you can stick your finger right through that bone right there. And it cut right here in my eyebrow where some shrapnel come up and got me right there, and almost it just knocked me silly. And I couldn't come to my senses, and I didn't know what was going on. Well, my tank commander, it knocked him off of it. So he immediately got down on the ground because it knocked him out of the turret. And of course, everybody lived through that when we got lucky. But I come out, had my flat jacket, my steel pot, I put it on. I couldn't hardly see too much, but anyway, it just knocked me silly, and I didn't know which way to go or what to do till I finally come to my senses and say, hey, we're getting fired at here, So you cover yourself up the best you can, and we got through it okay. The reinforcements, everybody loggered up, and we know what to do in that situation. Everybody got in their positions, and we took care of that pretty quick. But I never got dusted off or nothing like that. They was going to do it for me, but we needed the manpower out there at the time, and they just medic kind of patched me up, and we went on.
Was that an instance, you talked about your training earlier, is that an instance where your training kicked in and you may have done some things automatically?
No, I really wasn't trained about hitting a landmine, but at that point, your instincts, I guess, yeah, I can relate. I can take it back to some of the training. You might not even think of it at the time, but yeah, some of the training kicked in, and after you come to your senses, I mean, you don't have training on hitting a landmine and knocking yourself about half silly or something before you get your train of thought together, but that's the first one I hit. Yeah, I hit 3 of them all the time. I was on combat loss 2 out of the 3 tanks I was on. So,
was that one a combat loss?
Yes, sir.
Front drive sprocket?
the front drive sprocket, took the whole side of the track off, and bent the hull up right underneath the gunner's hatch. Luckily, we had a mine plate on our tank at the time. That's one thing we did install before we went out in the jungle, and so thanks to the older veterans, they said you need to get a mine plate on that thing. So,
and that's a result of, they knew, and they knew the vulnerabilities of that vehicle, that it was vulnerable to RPGs and mines. So, what other field modifications did you do to your vehicle?
Oh, we would put extra stuff on the turret, just anything we could find, a lot of ammo boxes and stuff, and to help from an RPG maybe coming through the side of it, and water jugs, and I can't remember what all, but we would try to load it. Different kind of brackets and metal, or and anything that kind of tapered if we could, because if it hit, it ricochet up. Sometimes, if it didn't have something flat to go again, normally when they hit your track, they'll aim for right where that turret sits, right on top of the tank. The turret is what turns around. That's the tank, and then the main gun's on the turret. It goes in a 360 any way you want to go with it. But if you hit it right in where it sits, right on top of the tank, that's a direct hit for the Vietnamese. They know.
Did your track ever get hit with an RPG?
No. Yeah. Landmines is all we got. Just landmines. But some of them did. Yeah. AP series carriers did. And they're like 3/4 done inch aluminum all the way, and they're like matchboxes. And they was behind us when we worked together.
So 5 days in, you hit the landmine, but you don't get dusted off. They need you.
Well, that was my decision. Yeah, go ahead.
And did anything change for you as far as the way you?
Immediately.
Can you describe that for us?
Well, it changes the whole outlook of everything. Your days of being in high school, being with your friends, your buddies, is over. This is business. When something like that happened to me, immediately I thought, man, I got 12 months of this. I've said that earlier, and I'm saying it again, or whatever time my time is over here. This is business. This is strictly business, and this is serious. You can get hurt real bad or get lost real quick, blown away or whatever. Just a quick of a light, flash of a light. Yeah, it changed you. And it made you closer with your buddies that you was with every day too, and your friends. You bond as a family real quick.
When you could get out of combat, what were some of the shared experiences that you would actually talk about? Did you talk about being in the field, or was it anything but the field?
Are you talking about while I'm still over there? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had our good times whenever we could. Yeah, every once in a while they'd bring some beer into us, not very often, and we have to drink it hot because there's no way to get it cold. And you'd argue over it, and sometimes and have a little fight now and then, who's going to get what, and then we'd if we was in a fairly secured area, and the officers knew at the time, they could tell what kind of area that you're really in. But that don't mean a battalion, the NVA can't come in at either given time or something in different areas, but not very often. We didn't have no, like they had some in the rear areas. They had their own bars and pretty secure places but everybody needed to be together because it takes everyone. Everybody had a job to do over there, no matter where you was at or what you done.
So your tanks, how many were in your unit? How many Sheridans? And then what was the support unit?
There was 2 Sheridans in our unit. Then we had, like, if I remember, 7 or 9 APC carriers attached to us. We had 3 platoons per troop, L troop, like we was L troop. So we had 1st, 2nd, 3rd platoon. And we would go out at night, or we'd go out during the day to bust jungle, and we'd button up. You'd have a Sheridan on each side, and you couldn't see 3 or 4 feet in front of you. And you start busting down jungle to wherever the officers would tell you to go, for the mission. You don't know where you're headed, but you find out where you're headed. It don't take long. And when there's contact, then you back up and take it from there. Then other people get involved. But it's the APC carriers, they couldn't bust jungle like our tanks could. That's why we led the way. And you never knew what was going to be in front of you. And then at nighttime when we come back out, after busting the jungle all day long, you'd have to not only worry about the enemy, the NVA or Charlie, or we called them Charlie, but some of us called them something different, but I'm not going to get into that. So we would back up at night and then wipe out a whole area with the tanks, knock the jungle down, and then we set perimeters up in a circle, 360 all the way around. And then we'd set our trip flares out. The trip flares were real fine wire on like a little hand grenade, or like a little CS hand grenade, and we just put the pin in it just enough where if the enemy would try to get into us and trip that wire, it pops out and then it lights up. It's got white phosphorus in it. And then that way you could see. And then we set claymore mines out also for the enemy. We'd set them in like claymore mines that got like 10,000 BBs in them, and they're like horseshoed, and they're in C4. That's highly explosive. It's hard to explain what
anti-personnel mine.
They're phenomenal, and they got little prongs that sits down in. Well, we'd horseshoe them on each side, and then we'd take a plastic spoon and put a little hole in it. And then on the other end, we'd put that wire in that hole in that wire in a plastic spoon we have in our C rations. We'd put a clothespin and put that in a clothespin. And then when the enemy would come through there at night, and they'd come back right where you busted jungle. They'd come back, put landmines right where you was at and stuff. That's how sneaky they was. When they tripped that wire, it'd pull that spoon out of there, and then all of them explode. Now you can imagine 5 or 6 claymores being on one side, 5 or 6 on the other, where you'd have busted jungle to set your perimeter up, which is a big opening area, and we'd run it straight across the wire. 10,000 BBs in each claymore mine. That's pretty good impact, and they do the job.
How often did they test your defenses at night?
At first, when I went in country, it was every now and then. But as I was in country, a few months later, probably 5 months in the country, it wasn't so bad, and there's a reason for that. Since you brought that up,
yeah.
And it's a good question. I'm glad you brought it up, because I had forgot about it until you said something. What we done, we recreated a situation. We called it a mad minute. And a mad minute's when we'd set a time, and we all knew, of course, we would have a certain track to start firing, and this is at night, because you didn't want no light or nothing out there to look like for your watches or something like that, because or smoke cigarette or anything. You have a little bit of light, and it's not a good situation. Anyway, one tank, well, I'd say track or tanks, would start firing, opening up. When the other people heard it, then they would open up. When I say open up, they start firing. Now you got to visualize, you got a 50 caliber machine gun on a tank and a 30 caliber coax down at the bottom in the turret, the gunner fires. or tank commander can fire it from up overhead. He's got control of everything too. But and the APC carriers were all in a circle, 360. We got 3 platoons, 2 Sheridans, and 9 APCs per platoon. 3 platoons. Everybody opened it up at once. At 50 caliber on the APCs, and each side of them's got 60s. That's called a mad minute. We'd do that for 1 solid minute, and then we'd shut it down. That's a lot of firepower at one. And every fifth round's a tracer. You know.
And that was a signal to the enemy, don't mess with us?
Well, it's whatever they want to think.
Kind of a demonstration of your firepower.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So,
And we wouldn't do it all the time, but if we was in an area where we thought that we need to wake them up a little bit, let them know, hey, we're still around here or whatever, or it worked.
yeah.
It was pretty effective. We liked that.
And you were in the 3 Corps area, and with obviously other U.S. combat units, 1st Infantry Division among them, and other ARVN units. Were you attached, your 11th ACR attached to any of these other combat units? And what was your
We worked
impression?
with them as needed, basically. We had an ARVN with us for an interpreter, which you need that, but as far as having an ARVN is a South Vietnamese army, and that's who we went over to help, South Vietnamese. And ARVNs had their own units, and we trained them and tried to teach them how to fight and all this and that. The United States did, not just us. So there was all other, not taking nothing away from any of the rest of the Air Force, Marines, Army, Navy, and everybody was done their jobs good over there. And they all worked with each other. But basically, we had an interpreter with us, but not too many ARVNs was attached to us. We pretty much done our own deal by ourselves. Some units did, but we didn't work with them. We was our own. We wanted to be that way.
Yeah. And you were...
It just ended up that way. I'll not go no farther with that.
Into 1970, President Nixon made the decision to involve U.S. units into the sanctuaries in Cambodia, the North Vietnamese sanctuaries in Cambodia. So let's talk a little bit about the 11th ACR, which had a lot of engagement in Cambodia and in the border area. Talk to us about that. Did the combat environment change any at all?
Yeah. First of all, the way that we looked at it, I'd say almost 99% of all 11th Armored Cav Regiment, it was an incentive. We was happy that we could do it. We wanted to do it all along. And we were one of the first ones in there. That could be an argument with some of the other outfits over there, but like I said, it took us all. And when we went in there, we had all 3 regiments. And we all loggered up. That's before we go into Cambodia, into the jungle, real thick. You could stand up. I forget where we congregated at, but it was we all had to meet at one designated area. And it was planned. It was bigger than what I ever thought in my life. I could stand up on my tank, or we could, which is our unit, and you could look as far as you could to the right or as far as you could to the left, and there's nothing but armor, and you're ready. You just got goosebumps on you. You're so happy. It's a beautiful sight. You know, you never worked together like that on everyday missions, but this was big. This was big, and when we went in there, before we went in there, like 24 hours before to 48 hours, they sent B-52 bomb strikes in there for that long a period of time, just bomb, bomb, and it's got the napalm and just balls of fire coming up when it comes down and hits. And they had a pretty good idea which areas they need to hit before we started to go in there. And it was just, it was awesome. You're ready at that point. Your adrenaline's so high. You're wanting to go in there and just get things done, you know. And I really believe, I've always said this, at that point of time, June of 70, maybe from June to August, somewhere in that area, that we had them pushed back so far. I honestly think we could have had that war won. We could have finished it off, and we got backed off. It hurts.
Talk to us about the engagements. Your enemy was elusive, but you finally felt you had them cornered.
Well, they was at that point. I mean, you know, it's not only us. We had the Marines. We had all the infantries, Army, Air Force, and the Navy was shooting from the water, you know, or wherever they had different areas, designated areas that they helped, because they could be anywhere, you know. But we pushed them back so far they didn't have time to stop and set up. But their battalion, and at first it was under heavy fire and stuff. We first went in there, pretty much, quite a bit. But then after we pushed them so far, just kept pushing. It was just pushed them right back into their area. I mean, as far as we could go with them, and as far as we could actually go, we had a guideline there. But we run into bunkers, we run into have bicycles, we got into the bunkers, we had guys go in and check tunnels out and bunkers out, and it's just like a city underneath the ground where they lived. It's unbelievable. The way that they had stuff, and then you got to worry about the bungee pits. They call them bungee pits. They sharpen bamboo and stuff, and they put them down in the holes and camouflage them. If you step on one of them and run it through your leg or your arm or something, it's tough to get out. It's like a blade. And there's a lot of guys that got hurt on them things. And then if they got an enemy, or if they're laying in a bunker or something, or somebody is laying there, sometimes they put a hand grenade underneath them, pull the pin, and you roll the body over, and then it'll explode. So you got to be careful doing that too. So.
Were you mounted most of the time during this operation in the fishhook?
The majority of it, yeah. We done ground missions too. We'd go down at night and set up in MDPs at different areas, different troops, different. It might be third platoons. Third platoon might do it one night. First platoon, second platoon, third. We'd rotate at night. We had set night perimeters, but he also would set a platoon out on the ground at night. Then you had to worry about snakes. When we busted jungle, if I can go back to this, you didn't have to worry about, and I started to finish this a while ago and I lost my train of thought, but can't think of everything. You would run into rubber trees or bamboo or whatever we busted down. Sometimes we'd run into a tree or something and a snake would come down and get in the middle on your top of your tank or whatever. That happened to some buddies of mine. That's most of them, they were Southern boys. And matter of fact, they flew the rebel flag every day on their APC carrier. And that was for a reason for that. It was because of the wartime, and that's what that flag's for. So they took the snake and flayed it out, and that night we ate it. And them guys, they knew how to cook, buddy. And that, to us, that was like eating a steak. But anyway, it's not only that. It's spiders, it's scorpions, it's red ants. You could get them on you at any time, and you hit a tree or something, they'll come down on you, and then when you're in the water, And a lot of the guys will verify this, that you get the leeches on you and stuff. And the leeches they're not leeches here, they're humongous. That's why you see they have this green insect repellent in your helmet. You could pour it over wherever that leech is, it'd slide right off of you. But if you try to pull it off or get it with a knife, you're getting some of your skin with it. So the old veterans taught us how to do that.
How to survive in the jungle.
But yeah, most of the infantry guys, had to combat that on top of whatever they went through besides the enemy too, and they had it rough also. They had it pretty rough. All of them did.
Were there ever any times when you'd talk to the infantry guys and they would tell you, well, you got it easy, or you would tell them? You each had your different hardships. What was the relationship with your infantry does?
Well, I think they respected us more than anything because they're glad to see us come, because we led the way for them. We tried, the ones we worked with. And then, of course, we was down on the ground too, but besides that. But I don't know, that could have been some confliction there, but a lot of them was glad to see us come sometimes, because they'd get on our tanks and we'd haul them around somewhere to where it needed to go, We worked together pretty good, so. It's just what you go in there for, and what your assignment is. We was armor, they was infantry. You got Navy, you got Air Force. Everybody had a job to do, like I said a while ago. It don't matter whether somebody's, well, you got this better than I do or whatever. Sometimes you look at it that way, but when we all looked at it in a different perspective, we was all together, and we tried to take care of our own. Now, when you get out 20 or 30 years later, or as long as I've been out now, you run into, well, you guys as Marines is this, Army's that, and Navy, everybody stands for whatever their military branch was, and that's understandable. But we all still hug each other and say welcome home.
Yeah. In Cambodia, one of the more difficult places that I guess where you had an encounter was Snow. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Not a whole bunch. It's something I don't discuss too much. It wasn't an easy task. I'll tell you, it was a little rough.
And
I'm not. I'd like to elaborate a little bit more than that on it, but. It was a different place.
And that was by June of '70. Were you nearing the end of your tour?
I ETS'd in September, so I was about middle ways or so.
As you started to get short, or you mentioned earlier there was a early out that Nixon had proposed, probably part of the Vietnamization of the war, and you took that. But as you were getting closer, did your attitudes change? Did your behaviors change?
Sure did. I'm getting close to coming home, man. That's when you get down to 30 days left to come back to the world. That's what we call the world. You really worry about it.
And you had more to worry about than others. Halfway through your tour, you flew to Hawaii and married your wife.
Yes, I did.
And
I wrote her a letter, and I said, hey, we need to get married.
Take your time.
So we did. We didn't know, you didn't get a letter for 2 or 3 months maybe, or a month or two after you send it. So she got it, and I never know whether she got it or not. And so, well, meet me in Hawaii, and I said, well, hopefully we'll get together. And we did. She had her dress and everything.
It must have been beautiful in Hawaii.
Yeah, it was. It was beautiful, but she was more beautiful.
How do you go back to Vietnam? I mean, you were a soldier, you had to go back, but there had to have been some conflicting emotions inside you.
Well, I didn't mind it because I wanted to get out. I want to serve my time and leave. So it was rough leaving her, but I was just ready to finish it up. I had a cousin that was in Vietnam the same time I was, and he was a major in 240th Mad Dogs Aviation Army, Major Joseph Allen Lacey, and his brother is like a best friend to me too. He's my first cousin, Mike Lacey. Me and Mike are real close. He just lives down the road from me back home. Well, Major Lacey was in Hawaii. He just went 3 terms, and he come out of Hawaii, and well, that helped us a little bit because when we got there, my wife stayed with him another week in Hawaii when I went back to Vietnam, and he helped me quite a bit emotionally, and also lifted me up a little bit. So it kind of helped, but like I said, he spent 3 terms over there. And I'll go back, if you don't mind, here a minute, and I'll about Joseph Allen Lacey, and that's how I address him, even though he's my cousin. He had he was in charge of the 204th Mad Dog Division, which is aviation, that's helicopters. Hueys, Loaches, Cobras, whatever they had. And we come down on a 3-day stand-down one day, and I had a pretty good relationship with my first sergeant. And I asked him, I said, Top, I said, is there any way that I could go see my cousin over in Barricade Island? Can you help me do that while we're down for a little bit? And he arranged it where I could. So they flew me into Barricade Island from the Hueys, from Black Horse Aviation over to their designated area when they had bunkers, or they had barracks and rear areas and stuff, but they go out during the day, then come in at night, or whatever it took whenever they was on their meet. But they had roofs over their head and had barracks and stuff, which was unheard of for us. But anyway, I went into the first sergeant's office there, and I had my combat fatigues on. I looked like crap. I mean, I wasn't no spit shine shooter or nothing like that. And I said, my cousin, I didn't say cousin, I said, Joseph, is a Major Lacey available here where I can talk to him? Boy, he looked at me like he just wanted to eat me up because I wasn't, he didn't, but he seen I had a Black Horse patch on my shoulder. He said, no, he's on a mission, but he'll be back shortly. So he said, you can congregate around here with some of the guys or something. He wanted to ask me so bad what I was doing here, but he never did. And the first sergeant's got pretty good authority. So I walked around a little bit, and pretty soon he come back, and I went back and I asked him, I said, are they back yet? He said, yeah, they come back from their mission. So I walk up there, he told me he was on the 3rd floor up there, and I beat on the door, and he didn't, he said, come on in. He's just chilling out from being on a mission all day, you know. And I beat on it again. He said, I said, come in. I know my cousin, you know. So next time I just kicked it with my foot as hard as I could. I'm a Spec 4, and he's a major in the Army. And he opened that door and I said, come on in. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and we just, you know, he couldn't believe it. I surprised him, so. And I thought, well, he's going to help me, maybe get me a good hot meal or something, or I had a little chance to break away just for a little bit. he said, in the morning, I'm going to have the right gunner come off that #1 Huey, and he said, I'm going to have you ride right gunner, and said, I'm going to take you with me on a mission. 240 Mad Dogs. He said, and he knew I knew how to shoot an M60 or 50 or whatever, because he kept up on me. He knew where I was, and he knew exactly where I was at and what I was doing. So I went out on a mission with him the next day. So he told that right gunner, you got the day off, he's taking your spot. They wouldn't let us fly on the same chopper. Now, all this is not to even be done. I mean, it's unheard of, but had probably anybody known about it, it wouldn't have been a good situation for him to be in, but that's just what kind of guy he was. I thought I'd get a little bit of a break, but here he puts me back in the combat situation again. So they got me running right gunner or going over the Mekong Delta. But he let me go over Saigon River first to test, to make sure he wanted me to fire that weapon, see if it's fired okay. And he knew I could fire it. They had a few targets down on the river that got taken care of, and he seen what he wanted to see. So. But anyway, we got to spend a little time together before that. After I went back, and they flew me right back down to Black Horse. But that's a moment that was a good moment for me, even though he put me in that situation. They wouldn't let us fly on the same chopper because we was related,
But you were able to kind of get a glimpse into his world. He obviously was keeping up
on
you.
Oh yeah, and I even got a 240th Mad Dog patch on my vest. I have a vest that I wear to reunions and stuff, and some people see that when I'm at a reunion somewhere, and they said they know that patch. That's very unusual to get a hold of, but.
And so you were able to come back from Hawaii. Was that before or after the Fishhook area?
Before.
Okay, so you endured.
Yeah, that was before the Cambodia era.
So you endured Cambodia, and you got short, and.
I didn't mean to go to a different area on you or anything like that. I just, it was on my mind. I thought I would share that with you. So we'd go back to whatever you was talking about there. That's fine.
No, you should. But you said that you felt like things had changed as you're getting within 30 days. Did you have any rituals or anything that you did to keep yourself safe?
You keep going. You know, it's do the best you can. You try to be more cautious. You think you're more cautious, but you never can be too cautious over there. I'm gonna try to get through this without breaking down. But I lost a real good friend. He had 5 days left in November, and we got ambushed prior to going into Cambodia. It was before then, and a sniper got him, and he only had 5 days left to go home. John Aducci was his name, and that always went through my mind. He was a good friend. He was a good brother, a good combat soldier, very good, and pretty sharp. And he had a chance. He probably had a chance that he could have went back in the rear area. Black Horse people would let you go in a few days early but he chose to stay out there with the guys, with the soldiers, and a sniper got him, shot him in the head. That hurt. And if that can happen to him, it could happen to anybody. So, or incoming, or mortar rounds, RPGs.
Did the randomness of it could happen to anybody, how did that affect you?
You just don't think about it. You try not to think about it. It's always there, but you try to brush it off. Go on. And I'm speaking for myself, but you know, God love all the Vietnam veterans that was over there and the way they served our country, not just me. I'm just giving you my experience, but there's others out there that could be doing the same thing and would probably like to share it, but they can't talk about it. So maybe I can speak for a few others, but there's no doubt in my mind what they went through, and you know, everybody's equal. Everybody's equal. They all had a job to do, and the ones that stayed in that area and done it, and over in Vietnam didn't take off in other areas to stay away from it. God love all of us.
We're going to resume our conversation. Bob, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, back to, you know, when my wife met me, my fiance then, when I got off the airplane in Hawaii, she didn't even know me. I was so dark from the sun and the tan, and my hair was almost completely blonde, and she just kept, I think I almost walked right by her, and then I kind of spotted her, but she kind of caught my eye.
Did you lose much weight when you were over there?
No, I was trim and thin over there. Not now. I think we all pick up a little now and then. I was same as I've always been for years.
I've talked to other Vietnam veterans and everybody's different, like you'd said. They said they lost 20, 30 pounds while they were over there, and some of it was rations and some of it was just stress. So,
but when I went over there, like I said, I was in fairly decent shape at that point. So I just kind of, there's times you don't eat and stuff, or you don't feel like you can eat, or you know, it takes a while to get your appetite back. But we ate seed rations and we got by.
What was, if you can talk about it, what was one of the most trying times for you while you were in Vietnam?
I guess the landmines, what goes through your head and the impact, and the second and third one I hit, the second one I hit busted my eardrums and they started bleeding on me. They healed back eventually, but it's just the impact that you're sitting down in a turret. That's what they call a turret inside of a tank, and you're in a gunner seat, and you have no idea what's going on, and all of a sudden, landmine goes off, and it's just it just from toe to head, it just jars your body so much, and then beats you around, and it's and not knowing what's happening. Because you're in an isolated area, you're in a confined area. You're helpless. You don't know what's going to happen next. You know, if this here hits you, you go through that, and you're still at a sane, stable mind, train of thought. What's going to happen next? You know, and you can't get up and get out if there's something going on. You're not supposed to, but. until you can figure out if your communications are knocked out, you know, you just got to play it by ear. Or it'd be hard to play it by ear the way in that situation, but you got to just use some common knowledge to your best ability. I guess that's the only thing I can think of, and there's probably others that I can't, on top of my head, I can't relate to, but. If that's what you're referring to.
Yeah. Your tank commander in those situations, did he check on everybody? What, you know,
oh, yeah.
And were you all kind of checking on each other?
Yeah.
Was your training to not dismount, to stay with the vehicle?
Well, he could go down and communicate with us, and he did. Stay put for a while till, you know, so and so comes over or whatever. And if we're out of commission, the other tracks know or whatever, and sometimes we might come over and dismount and get on an APC carrier with 16s or whatever is available at the point or at the time, and to get out of there or to get away from that area or whatever.
And that's when, like you had said, this is real, this is the business, and how am I going to get out of this? And
Do you reflect back on those moments often?
Well, it carries on through the everyday life. There's decisions you make sometimes, and things that you do that it helps you develop from an early age up to, like, I'm quite a bit older now than what I was, but it's helped through everyday life. You look back on, man, I'm having a rough day or this or that. That ain't rough. It ain't as tough as what it could be.
So
I don't regret going into the military at all whatsoever. In my era, the draft was in, and then they went to the lottery after that, I guess. Well, I know they did, but I'm proud to be able to serve our country. I have mixed emotions about, I don't like to lose at nothing. I'm a very competitive person, very competitive. And I like to see a W beside that Vietnam for a win. And I'm not satisfied with it today, and I probably never will be, because we don't lose at nothing. American people hates the thought of losing. And in the Vietnam veterans' minds, we could have won that war. There's no doubt in my mind we could have won that war. That could have been ours. And it would have been so much better to come home with that, or the ones behind us come home ending that. And they, and God bless them too, because they had a hard time getting out of there, the way I understand it. But and then they come home, and you hear people spitting on you and doing this and that. Several Vietnam veterans, and it's we already made our minds up when we come back to Indianapolis, Indiana. There was quite a few veterans on that plane. If they had protesters there and people getting ready to spit on us or spit on us, they better had all the police departments and state police and everybody else ready to take them to the hospital, because it was going to happen. Somebody got hurt pretty bad, and it wasn't going to be us.
what was your reception in your hometown and among your family when you came home? How did they react to your return?
They was glad for me to be back. My mom and dad got divorced just before I went to Vietnam in '69. They went on their separate ways. My grandpa died about that same time, and I went over there with that on top of everything else. So your state of mind's not really like you would like for it to be, like I said, but whenever you get in a situation where you got to do something quick, you lose your train of thoughts right there, surviving. But you think about that quite a bit. About the reception was great for family and friends. When you come home, you're not the same person, and your friends see it. They see that. I run around with guys. It's Ronnie Carey's a good friend, my very best friend, Ronnie Carey, Mickey Cromas, Dave Wright. Dave died not too long after I come home. He had a heart collapse in his valve. Mickey Cromas was another real good friend of mine. He died of cancer, young, a real young age. It just didn't seem to stop. You still lose good friends even though they're not in combat with you, but they're combating the cancer or the heart problems, and everybody has their bad moments in different situations, trying times. I had several good friends. Steve Rader, I can't. Darrell Bennett. I wished I could mention them all, and the ones that I can't hope they forgive me, because they're.
And these were all veterans? And veterans and friends?
Friends. Bill Hamilton, he was in Vietnam also. He was in the National Guard, and they evacuated him, and he ended up in Vietnam. So all these local guys I'm talking about.
Was your situation a little different because you came home and had to establish your own family, your own household, as a newly married man who was coming home to his wife?
Was your situation any different or made better knowing that, hey, I'm going home?
No, it was, once I got home, it was a pretty tough adjustment. It took me, it was not easy. I couldn't get comfortable, and I guess what went through my mind more than anything was I'd like to go back and finish it.
Felt unfinished business?
Yes, sir. It just lays with you, and it was still going on. We can win this thing, man. And, you know, we can do it. It can still happen, but it didn't. So it's hard to adjust as this. It was for me, and there's a lot of others, not just myself. It's having a harder time probably than what I've had. But my friends has helped me get through it quite a bit. Sometimes, you don't act the same around people. And it's understandable. Nobody knows what's going on through your mind at the time. You know, I like to share things with you that really goes through it, but I can't discuss it right now because it's not good things.
And
there's a lot of things that happen I'm not even discussing with you right now today because it don't need to be. Everybody knows that's been in that situation and been over there in Vietnam. It's there's bad moments, a lot of bad moments that's memories, and they'll never go away.
Do you think veterans organizations, do you belong to a veterans organization?
I belong to Legions and AMVETS.
Does that support and kind of
Yeah,
the other
they're
vets know what you've been through?
They're very supportive, and then the veterans that hang out in them places and congregate, we talk amongst each other more than we will anybody else. So I'll talk to a veteran before I will anybody else about a situation that, well, you remember this such and such time, such and such date, or was you involved in this or involved in that? And it helps. It's like a therapy, I guess, pretty much. The most therapy of our Vietnam veteran, but another one is
Just a hug.
welcome home.
I've mentioned that phrase to some of the other veterans we've interviewed for this project, and some appreciate it and some don't because they say that it's a little late. That welcome home is a little late. How do you feel about it?
Well, I feel about it, it all depends on what they're referring to. If it's one veteran hugging another veteran, we both was in the same place. But if it's somebody that wasn't a veteran that they're referring to, then that's understandable. But it's not their fault. It's not the civilian's fault or somebody else. You know, it goes way beyond that. It goes up the people that represent everybody in the country, so in the United States. I don't think we need to get involved in that. So,
do you feel?
I could name some names, but I have a hard time with them too at the particular time. But that's okay.
Does it feel good, or do you feel some comfort if a civilian or someone that you know didn't serve in Vietnam maybe sees you out in public with your Vietnam veteran shirt and says, "Welcome home"? How do you feel when they say that?
But when I hear it from a person out of a grocery store that their son's in the military, that means something to me, and I share it with them. And they see my license plate or something, or can tell that I was in the military, or if I have a shirt on or whatever, and they thank me for being in the service. And sometimes they'll say, "Welcome home," and they say, "Well, my son's over in wherever, Iraq or Afghanistan," and you know, them guys has got it tough too, man. War is hell with anybody. It's purely hell. But if I hear it And you don't hear it from anybody that really don't mean it. I don't think so, or they wouldn't say it. So that don't bother me. I don't know if I answered your question like you.
No, you did.
Asked me, but I have a little hard time with some of them that avoided it. That upsets me a little bit, but.
Were you able to talk about your experiences when you came home, or was it something that lay dormant for a while?
I'm sorry, will you repeat that question?
Were
please?
you able to talk to your family and friends about your experiences?
No.
Or
No, and I didn't. My dad never talked about it. My dad was a World War II veteran, which I told you that earlier. It was kind of sentimental to me, but I've got my second breath now. Hopefully, I think I do here. I think I can get through this. But my dad never talked about military at all whatsoever, not day one. So, but and I know my dad was a good athlete too, and he held a high score in basketball at Center High School where he went. Not to get away from the military here, but it's related. And then when he went on to Ball State, here in Ball State University, and played as a freshman in 1943 on the varsity. And then he got drafted out of college. And he come back, and they begged him to come back to play ball, but he never did. He was just went on about his business. But he never discussed. He would never talk too much about it. And most of the World War veterans don't. Not very many do.
But I think it's also important, all right, let me rephrase that. Do you think it's important for veterans of all eras and all branches to get their stories out for future generations?
No, not really. No two people's the same. Only if they want to discuss it and talk about it. It took me a long time to even bringing up some stuff I'm bringing up today. It's hard to do. Some people just want it left alone, and I respect that.
Yeah.
And you ask me, and that's my opinion about that. I respect that. Enough's enough, and that's probably the way they look at it. So I don't mind sharing it with some people, because now, for that simple reason, just what you said right there,
What would you like future generations, 40, 50, 60 years down the road, what would you like them to know about your generation and the men and women who went to Vietnam?
What I would like for them to know is I would like for them to take us under their wing and go forward with it and get away from all the riffraff that's going on right now. The killings, the stabbings, robbings, the racials. Let's get it on. Let's get it together. We're for what we stand for. We're getting away from that, and it's up to them to carry the torch. And I think they need to stop and smell the roses and look back to see what got them where they're at today. Why are they out protesting? Why are they out discriminating or doing what they're doing? Discriminations and arguing, and if it wasn't for the combat soldiers from way back, day one, none of us would be free today to even do that. It'd be a hard situation to combat. There's a combat in a different era right there, but it could be combated. At one time it was under control. We about lost everything that we had in the United States of America at one time. And can you imagine? I don't remember because I wasn't born yet, but can you imagine what the people felt and how they felt after the end of World War II? They was closer than anybody historically that I'd ever can imagine to pull together we was broke, went into depressions and conquered it and got through it. But had they not accomplished what they accomplished in that era, we'd all be in trouble today. So, and we've passed the torch. They passed it to us. Now we need to pass it to them. So that's my message to them. Let's all try to get along, man. I mean, you know, that's just the way I see it. There's no, you can't. You go to the schools, and I might be saying something I shouldn't be saying here, but when there's a time and a point where you can't say a pledge of allegiance of the flag or your prayer each morning in a school class, and that tries to be taken away, that's not what we stand for. We earned that right. This is our country. Let's keep it that way. Come and join us from wherever you're coming from. I mean, you know, that's what it's all about too. As long as you're legal in the United States, you're welcome any part of it, any state. Get on our bandwagon.
Yeah. Let me see if I missed anything. Richard? He's going to check. I might ask, did I miss anything? I guess. I'll ask you too. Did I, as far as your experiences, is there anything I've left unsaid or unasked?
We're still on interview.
Oh yeah, we're still rolling.
No, it's rather than the fact my son is he's got the same name as I do, but he's the third. If he can accomplish his goals are unbelievable. He could, the sky's the limit for him. It could be. He went to Ball State. He graduated as a I think political science. He had accounting. He also had accounting, but he would have made one heck of a commander, and he still could in the military because he's pretty sharp. He's my son, but he's one of the best. And his wife, his name's Kathy, and she works she's a school teacher at Mount Summit. But I've often thought my son's a good leader. He's a good leadership. He coaches baseball in Little League, and people like him, kids like him. He knows how to teach them. And he's a good manipulator also on top of it. So, and he works down at Newcastle at Citizens Bank. I just want to give him some credit where credit needs to be due for him, because I'd have him on my team anytime. If I had to go in combat tomorrow, he'd be the kind of commander I'd want over me.
You think he picked up those leadership skills from you?
He might have. It wasn't easy, but I coached Little League ball for many years out at Selma, and we won a lot of games out there, and still hold some records out there, and had a few enemies. Because people don't like to lose either, but we had a pretty good record, so I thought I'd share that. So
yeah, well, you have to be proud of your sons or children and grandchildren. So,
and I got 2 grandchildren, Brian Walradth and Tanner Walradth also, and they both involved in sports big time. So, and they get a little ornery now and then, but that's.
Grandpa keeps them in line.
I try to keep them right on edge. But as far as back to the military days, and I don't regret nothing. I don't regret going in. I was glad to be out. Would I go back to Vietnam? And some of them do. I don't want no part of it. Even going back touring it, I just soon be left alone about it. And I want to share one thing for you, in a summary here, if it's getting close to that. I had one of my good friends, probably my best, rather than the guy that I went over with, Eric Miller. it was my first sergeant. His name was Montalongo. He was an Indian, and he was just like a father. He spent 3 or 4 terms in Vietnam, highly decorated. And he comes to all the reunions. We used to have reunions, big reunions. He's passed away. We take showers sometimes on beside our tanks when we was over there and out in the jungle, and put that 5-gallon bucket over, or plastic 5-gallon jug. And I think I brought that up earlier. But anyway, we called it Top's first sergeant. I snuck around with a camera and took a picture of him while he was trying to shower. And I had it, one of the reunions, I found it in my album. I had it blowed up in a big picture, and we had a special ceremony for him, and he didn't know what was going on. I said, Top, we got something here for you. So I presented it to him. We had it blowed up, and I took it out and handed it to him. He seen that, and his eyes got real big. He said, he always called he called everybody Combat. Combat, where'd you get that at? I said, I didn't know you had that. He said, I'm going to do something with this. So he took it back, he's from Minnesota, and they framed it and put it in the American Legion. But he was something else. He had your back 100%. He was a good one to be under when you needed him. But anyway, he come home, and he was sitting in a restaurant. And the reason why I brought this up, because I want the people. This is the kind of guy he was. And he got in an argument with somebody in a restaurant, and they called him a baby killer. They call a lot of Vietnam veterans baby killers. Well, some of the kids would plant the landmines when you go down the road or out in the jungle or something. You turn around and go back the other way. Little kids, they'd have them planting landmines, and they'd used every tactic they possibly could. Well, anyway, Top's in civilian life. He's out. And they call him, somebody in one of the restaurants called him a baby killer, said, you guys was nothing but baby killers. Top was drinking a cup of hot coffee at the time. Top's Top. When he goes off, he blows his top. But I mean, he takes the coffee and throws it in the guy's face. And a policeman come over and said, hey. He said, what did you do that? He said, I can take you to jail for doing this or that or whatever. He said, started arguing about it. He said, Top looked at him and said, hey, you heard what he said. You was standing right in the background. You could corrected this. You let it happen. You have no idea what this means. It offends me, and it's not true. The cop let him go. The Top wouldn't have cared anyway. I mean, that's just the way he was. I could tell you a lot of stories, more stories about Top, but I'm not. Well, we won't get into that.
He was kind of he led by example.
He didn't take nothing off of nobody. If somebody come in a CP track or something, had a complaint about this or that or whatever, he didn't like what he heard or said, he'd run them out of there. And if they tried to argue with him about something, he always kept a whip or a M16 right there beside his track. And if he's reached for something like that, they knew he meant business. So, but he'd never hurt. He would never do nothing. He just always got his point across. But that Indian in him, but he was a fireballer. He was a good leader.
Was he your tank commander, or
he was our first sergeant for our L troop.
L troop, okay.
Company commander, the captain, and then on the non-commissioned officer side, he's the top line over there. So he had to report to the company commander on all of us guys.
Okay.
It was his job to keep us lined out.
You ever get in a disagreement with him?
Not very often. No, I tried to stay on the good side of him.
Let me see if Richard, any questions?
They'll route it through Sam.
Nope, nothing else from Richard.
Any final thoughts? Bob, the floor is yours.
No, glad to be an American. I appreciate the interview, the thought of having me involved in this, and thanks the whole staff for letting me have the opportunity to sit down and discuss this with you and share my moments. The team you have here working for you has been excellent. I think they've made me feel comfortable, and that's helped out quite a bit too. And I think you people do a great job, and I appreciate your concerns on carrying the tradition on, so people can get a message that maybe they've never got before. That's and that means something to me. And my wife, she's my right hand. So it's we got, ever since we come back from we got engaged before I went to Vietnam. Then I sent her a letter to be married there. I couldn't talk about it earlier. I got a little emotional, but when she came over there and I seen her, and carrying that dress and everything, and we got married in Hawaii, like I said, and we're still together.
Congratulations.
You can ask her how that's happened. I don't know, but it's been like 45 or 46 years, and it's still climbing.
Congratulations.
But it's in a summary here. Hadn't been for her, I might have had some trouble getting through the war too, because she hung with me all the way through, and she sent me goodie packages and care packages and notes and letters, wrote me about every day. So and she still got every letter I wrote her. She, you know how they keep that stuff. So it's
partnership.
That's as much as I can say about the whole situation. But thank you again for interviewing me and letting me be on your show here.
Well, thank you. And on behalf of WIPB and Ball State University, I'd like to thank you for your service to our country.
You're welcome.
Bob. Thank you, sir.